All phones on silent?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, silent they are.
Yeah.
Is buzzing allowed?
No.
Even if it's in your pocket?
Not unless it's a silent buzz.
It's a purr.
Hello guys, welcome back to another WTF1 podcast, episode 3. I'm Matt.
I'm Jess.
I'm Jack.
I'm Tommy.
So you notice that there is another person on our couch that isn't Alistair.
He's
Unfortunately.
waving for our audio listeners.
Who are you, Jack? If you're listening to audio,
You can definitely get some audio there. No, I am Jack Aitken. I race in Formula 2 for ART Grand Prix, and I'm the Renault Sport F1 reserve driver. That's a mouthful.
Nice.
Such a big deal now.
You know, titles, just dropping them like they're nothing. No,
Just drive F1 cars for fun these days, don't you really?
I wish.
Yeah, when they let you in them.
When they let me near them, yeah.
So obviously here to speak about the Chinese Grand Prix, which was a tale of two sort of halves, wasn't it really?
2-half race.
Tommy, give me a 3-word
That's
race
not
review.
my
Go on.
3-word recipe. Mine is yay safety cars.
Wow, I said yay in the last podcast.
Yeah.
I
It's a
feel like
good
we're
it's a good
cheating.
filler word. Is it cheating?
Kind of.
It is
'cause-
now. 'cause
Is it?
it's not with
Okay.
me.
No, I think
No.
we can run with
I'll
it.
think about it next time.
Because I think a
My
lot of,
2-word race reviews is safety cars.
I think a lot of people felt yay safety car, so we'll let that one slide.
I think we
Yeah, that was
we
a general
mentioned
reaction.
it. We mentioned it in the. I was going to say Abu Dhabi one. We were in Abu Dhabi. We were talking about Australia. For us, we were saying about the virtual safety car, and there was the argument of, oh, the virtual safety car, it's not fair, and all that kind of stuff. And me and you as fans were like, I don't care. I want carnage. I want to watch people mix up. So it's quite interesting to have Jack on because obviously you're a racing driver
There's gonna
that
be some opinions
can get
there.
screwed. Whereas we all go into it like, all I care about is carnage. It doesn't screw everyone actually driving.
Yeah, but I, from my perspective as a driver, if you have a VSC that comes out or a safety car, and this happens quite a lot in F2 because we have pit stops as well.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say we have crashes.
We have lots of them as well. Yeah, guaranteed solid entertainment. But it's it's really easy to be screwed over by a safety car or a VSC. But equally, you'd kind of feel like it's going to even out over the course of the year. You'll probably lose some, you'll win some, and others won't affect you. So if it spices up the racing, which it does, I'm kind of like all
I guess
for it.
evening out, like you say, you could argue Vettel had exactly that, where it won him the race in Melbourne
Yeah.
and screwed him this time.
Yeah.
I mean, not completely, but it didn't help him.
Yeah.
Matty_K actually sent in a question. I don't know why I said it like that. Was it unfair that the top 4 weren't able to get a free pit stop under the safety car? And how can safety car deployment be fair on everyone? And
It shouldn't be fair.
for me, it was just
Yeah.
like when you go into that territory where you're thinking, okay, there's an issue on track, and then you're like, actually, this isn't going to play into the hands of the top 7. We'll wait till the next lap. Like that can't be the
No.
case.
It's a dangerous
Safety car has
road
be
to go
done
down.
soon.
Exactly. Like Charlie Whiting is meant to sit there and go, right, this is now a dangerous situation, and as soon as it becomes a dangerous situation, that's when a safety car is deployed. So he's not going to look at the track and go, oh, where's Vettel? Where's...
Yeah. Also,
No.
There's a
Yeah.
car
also,
upside down, but it will
also
affect-
the entertainment factor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want everyone was going crazy because unpredictable driver won the last race, so you can't complain that it's not entirely fair, because if the fast cars start at the front and it's always going to be the same result if you just dictate the race so everything's identical. You'd say, oh, why doesn't everyone pit on exactly the same lap and have a minimum
Yeah,
pit stop time?
as soon as you
yeah.
go down that route, then it's like that's part of sport, especially in one as complex as Formula 1. You're going to have people who lose out because of certain things, and even when you discuss the strategy before a race, you discuss the possibility of a safety car or a VSC. So it's part of the game. You have to try and predict. You know that in Baku there's going to be a safety car, so you account for that. If you don't, and you're like, oh well, it's not fair if the safety car comes out, and it's just being a bit thick, really.
Yeah, and I mean the Bulls played it perfectly. They and I mean this is kind of, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here in terms of
Probably.
your list. Maybe I'll say that
Delete.
later. But they did play it well.
They took that risk, didn't they, of
Exactly.
going on the ultras in qualifying to start
Yeah,
it. So
exactly.
It does make me wonder, because the safety car was deployed before Hamilton went past the pits. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, isn't there well, from my understanding, there's always a safety car window. There's always if a safety car comes out, come in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Isn't that the immediate? Well, I guess Jack.
No, there is. Yeah,
So surely,
the drivers should know from lap X to X. It can change during the race, but they should know if they see the safety car board, they'll just dive straight into the pit, and they have to kind of trust that the team's ready.
so surely that was in the safety car window for Lewis, or were Mercedes completely?
Well,
It
it was
sounds
because he
like
was
it.
in between them, wasn't he? He was in between Verstappen and Ricciardo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he
You can
could
see-
have gone in.
Yeah.
You see one bull. If you look at the replay, you see one bull dive in, then Hamilton go
goes
round,
round.
and then Ricciardo dives in.
'Cause-
And so yeah, he could have.
Could hop.
What even is that? Half.
Jess just makes up words. I like it.
It's early, okay. But I'm going to jump the list. I don't know if this is a bad thing or a good thing, but one of the things I think it was Glenn Freeman actually from Autosport put out a tweet yesterday about are Mercedes being too reliant on data, because this is the third race in a
data
row
blind.
now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Third race in a row now. I really can't talk today. Where they've been watching the data and missed what's happened on track. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe, I don't know, but I feel like maybe in the Red Bull garage they were playing it more aggressively. One, probably because they can, because they know if they're going to win races, they have to take risks. But I feel like it was more of an instinctive thing. It was, we've got an opportunity here, let's take it. Whereas I've got the impression that Mercedes were just going through all the calculations and going, oh, what should we do? And by that point, both of their cars have gone past the opportunity to pit. So that arguably lost them the race, I think.
It's the fact that the Red Bulls, through the whole race, they always looked like the pit wall was on top of whatever was going on.
Yeah.
They took the opportunity when it came, and they double stacked the cars both times.
Yeah.
They saw the gap between the two cars and instantly knew we've got the space to do it, and they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, like you say, they could afford to do it because they weren't as high up in terms of track position. They kind of had to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
Whereas Mercedes and Ferrari, there's a bit of tunnel vision going on because they're looking at each other.
Yeah.
And Ferrari messed up they tend to mess up even more than Ferrari at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And from Hamilton and Bottas's point of view, Bottas would have been sweet if it weren't for the Red Bulls.
Absolutely.
So
Well, Hamilton was a bit Captain Hindsight anyway with the whole,
Yeah.
why didn't we pit? It's like,
Yeah.
you could have driven into the
you're
pit
the one
lane.
driving.
He's good at that, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's
but
very good at complaining.
I think that's one of the things that sort of why the reason it was a bit of a nightmare when it was implemented, but they tried that team radio ban because they wanted drivers to make up their own mind rather than the computer says this, do this right now. Like the engineers are deciding the race for the driver rather than the driver making a hero call and going, I'm pitting, I'm putting on the new
Equally,
tyres.
though, I don't mean to be like Mr. Safety over here, but it's
Mrs.
Ms. Actually,
Miss.
I'm joking.
Opened a whole can of worms.
Just another one. But it's so I've completely lost my point now. Oh yeah, so I don't think Hamilton could make that call because then Mercedes would have no time at all to react to get the guys out, and arguably he could have been stuck in his pit box for X amount of seconds whilst Mercedes gets themselves
I don't know
together.
because they pit. I always find that the teams come out so late now.
So
that actually,
yeah.
I do think you would have time.
They say that they do, what is it, 10 seconds? 10 seconds to go from in the garage to
Generally-
out in the places?
A standard pit stop procedure, there'll be a 20-second call out to the
Mm-hmm.
mechanics when it's planned, and then the driver will say pit lane, and then they'll know it's time to go out, basically.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just the safety orientated. That's the easy way to do it. You can literally have a driver box at the last corner and say pit lane, and they'll probably
come
be
out.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sort of in two minds as to the whole Hamilton call, because obviously he's seen the Red Bull go into the pits and thought at that moment, 'cause obviously it's very much split second, isn't it? At that point, it's okay. Verstappen's gone in. This could work for me if I carry on. He probably doesn't even know if the Ferraris have pitted. Oh, well, they wouldn't pit, but safety car was after that. But that's the kind of things that you kind of take
always
into account. You
hindsight,
don't know.
isn't it?
Like if
Yeah.
it's down to Lewis, he doesn't really know. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you've got to take that risk. If he had no pace this weekend either, really, in
No.
comparison to his teammate, who. I mean, we slated him, both of us slated him last time.
It's the traditional Bottas start to the podcast where we analyse Bottas's race. We need his own little race rundown.
Yeah.
Tune, like,
How did Bottas do?
He was really impressive this weekend,
really
I thought.
good.
The strategy was great. He did an awesome outlap, jumped Vettel, which surprised, I think, a lot of people.
Really
that
good
he was
overtake as well to... was it
on
Raikkonen?
Raikkonen. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
defensive move against both Ferraris.
And Ricciardo, he pushed him to the limit of what was legal without going too far and crashing, but he really, went to the point. Or are you going to argue that?
I'm going to disagree. That
we
was
go.
one point where I think, it's one point where in that instant he could have defended that better because he left, what Ricciardo's like, and he left a 2-car width gap coming out of that side kink.
Too late, didn't he?
And then he made it 1 car width, but Ricciardo's there. It's game over. He needed to be right on the edge of the circuit, but then, like he says, the pace difference was so big at that point, he was going to lose.
He couldn't
the
have
race.
done much anyway, and I think that
He had to basically take him out to win the race.
from Jack Aitken, take him out. Okay.
Not advocating, just stating the facts.
We need to do a Verstappen.
But I felt like the defensive move was...
We're not talking about that yet.
Not yet. I don't want to trigger
It's on the
Tommy
list.
just yet. But the actual defensive move itself, I thought was pretty good, to be honest. Because if he'd gone too tight, Danny Ric could have easily gone to the outside, got a much better run, and taken him with the fresher tyres that way. So, as you say, Bottas was pretty much damned if he does, damned if he doesn't at that point. But that was close, to say the least, wasn't it? That was on the edge.
Only Danny Ric could have pulled that off, being that close without,
The impressive thing about what Danny Ric does is the braking phase because he has the ability, and a few other people are like this. Verstappen used to be a bit, but he's gone off a bit. He's got that ability to not only brake late and get away with it and make the corner and be in a decent state when he gets to the apex, but he's also got the ability to make the car look like he's just going to enter the braking zone, he's following the other car, nothing's going on, and then bang, he just does it. Whereas most of the time, other people, you can see in your mirror, you're watching all the time, you know that there are a couple of cars behind you, and as soon as you see that nose pop out, you're on your guard and you're going to start defending. But
the move on Hamilton surprised everyone because all his other moves, you get in the slipstream, open the DRS, you're alongside, go. The Hamilton one, it was like, all right, okay, he's going for it.
Yeah.
4 car lengths back, and it's almost like it's such a clean overtake, even though it's a dive bomb. It looks almost so.
There's no snatch of the brakes.
There's no locking of the brakes, but it's a massive dive bomb, but it's such a clean dive bomb.
It's a controlled dive bomb.
Dive bomb.
It's if there is such a thing, but obviously there is because he did it. But very different from his teammate. Can we talk about him yet?
Not yet, actually. There's been a few 3-word race reviews from our fans. One of them is actually quite linked into what we were saying. Phil Baldwin says Ricciardo overtaking masterclass. We've then got James Greenwood, who I think brings us on to our next point. Why Max Y?
Why Max Y?
Very, very good point, really. Why, Tommy? Why?
One thing I thought was quite interesting was his move on Hamilton, which was the one that arguably it didn't cost him that much. He dropped behind Ricciardo, but he still could have easily finished second at that point until he screwed up again. But the move on, you mentioned it in the Insert Best Reactions, just needed to wait. He needed to be more patient.
Yeah.
And I remember after Brazil, what year was it? 2016, when he did the race in the wet and he was passing everyone.
Amazing.
Everyone was like, oh my God, he's the best driver ever. And
Including you, obviously.
yeah. And one of the things they mentioned after the race was apparently Jos Verstappen taught him to pass in bits of the track that no one else would, because apparently he was so much better at everyone else at karting that they just said, okay, to practice, you're not allowed to overtake in turn 3 because that's the easy overtake or whatever. And while that was amazing in Brazil, it's actually bit him massively in that race because the move with Hamilton was never on, despite the tyre advantage. It wasn't a wet race. He got on the marbles and just screwed it. And then even with Vettel, like the second the door opened, he was like, oh my God, I need to overtake now. And it's like, just
I don't even feel like he was going for that move.
It's
on
just
Vettel.
a weird one, wasn't it? Yeah.
He locked his rears from what he said in his interview. So I think that was just a pure mistake. Obviously, he was trying to get as close as possible, but I don't think he was ever trying to make the move. It was never on.
It didn't look typical Verstappen move.
No.
I think he
it
just
looked like
lost
he made a
it at
mistake.
that point. I think.
Yeah.
I think he saw he had the race win on a plate basically, and I think that's why he was so dejected at the end of the race. That it's the first time in his career where his aggressive style has screwed him out of a race win, but he dropped it big time, and that's the first time I've seen him where he's a very arrogant driver.
Ooh.
He was always, well, he is, isn't he? Like, he's very...
Verstappen fanboy.
He knows how good he is.
He knows how good...
Yeah.
Exactly, he knows how good he is, and every other incident he's ever been involved in, he's straight away is just like, I'm not changing my approach.
Yeah.
Senna wouldn't have all this kind of stuff. Like, he lives by that Senna, like, if you don't go for a gap, whatever. This was the first race I've seen him where he looked gutted, and he went straight up to Vettel and apologised and said, I screwed it. Vettel was actually really respectful and calm about it. He's normally quite OTT when, especially
but he knew he'd lost the race already anyway. So.
Yeah,
I think that's probably why.
Had Vettel been, had Vettel been in a podium position, I don't think he would have reacted in the same way. But
Dropped to Toro Rosso for next race.
That's what we said in the last podcast. We were like, how long until?
I think one of the questions was, I saw a few things that was like, well, if Kvyat got dropped, should Verstappen be dropped? But
no,
exactly.
I have quite a different opinion on Verstappen, just in terms of, I think Verstappen's been one of those guys who's always been right on the edge of, you pull off the massive overtake, which everyone goes wow, to what we saw in China.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's happened is he's just gone from there to there, and that's resulted in
his
two
line.
crashes.
It's a really thin
line, and you look at the overtakes one by one. The Hamilton one could have been awesome. He'd gone into the corner. Hamilton thought he was safe, and just at the mid-corner point where Hamilton started to ease off and get the car set up, he just planted it and tried to go around the outside. And if he had been one wheel length further along, he would have been alongside, and Hamilton would have had to give him the space.
And everyone would have been saying, "What an
and
amazing move! Oh my god!"
And that would have set him up to go on and overtake, etc., etc. And he would have won the race probably. But as it was, he was one wheel width further back because there were more marbles than he expected, or the grip wasn't quite there, and he got shoved off. The Vettel one was probably, like you said, I think he'd already was thinking, I've screwed it a bit here, and that might have been not helping. But he actually said on the radio, I think, that he thought Vettel had locked up and was going long. So he saw the opportunity, and it's like you say, he sees the opportunity and he just goes for it. And that's what has made him so good previously. And
we still need that. We still want that in F1. Like, we want people to make the daring
I don't think
moves.
he should change his approach that much.
I think he just needs to become a little smarter. I think just a little bit more control so that he doesn't fall.
I think he's admitted that himself. He said it's a life lesson.
Yeah, exactly. So
this
hopefully this is a turning point for him. I mean, I don't know how much. I mean, I guess a lot can happen in 2 weeks. So maybe we'll see in Baku. I mean, Baku isn't exactly the best place to try out hugely daring moves unless you're.
But you kind of have to at Baku.
But you kind of have to. I guess we'll see. But I hope it is, because we do need races, and I was one of the people that said Max will be a world champion one day, but he's not going to get there if he keeps crashing.
I said after the race that it could be the most. It could be, while it's a really bad situation, it could be the best thing that's ever happened to him, because it's got to the point where he spent years and years, like you were saying about the Hamilton overtake. He did that overtake on, was it NASA, around the outside of Blanchimont, and it won like overtake of the year and all that kind of stuff. So he's used to doing those moves, and he's never had that moment where his style has cost him a race victory.
Not a race victory.
And gone, I need to do something here, I need to think about it. And he's at that fork in the road where it's like, right, do you want to be the next Vettel, or do you want to be the next Maldonado? And he's
Maldonado.
Obviously.
Every time.
Do you want world champions or memes? Decide now.
Let's kind of quickly move to our predictions. That we were all wrong with our predictions, which
although I did say I wanted to see Ricciardo on the podium can I just say?
Did you have it in your
Did you have him as
predictions,
a winner?
though?
I didn't have it in the predictions, but I said it in the
I
podcast.
wanted and said and put him on my podium, but it wasn't first. I don't think no one would have
I don't
ever
think
guessed
anyone could have predicted
No.
that result, and no one could have predicted that 3 races into a season that Mercedes haven't won a race yet.
I know.
That is just
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
crazy.
When
But-
Hamilton was 7/10 clear in qualifying in Melbourne, everyone was like,
that. It's over.
"Well done, Hamilton!
Yeah.
Fifth title."
Yeah.
Jack, what was your 3-word race review? We haven't actually gone round.
Oh God.
I mean,
it's
you've had
pro-
a good 40 minutes to think about this. So.
Yeah, but it's
We've kind of covered all
difficult.
the
You know.
points as well.
There's a lot
so
of
it's fine.
combinations. There's a lot of words in the English dictionary.
Just pick 3 random ones.
No, it'd probably be something along the lines of Daniel is love.
Daniel is love, brilliant.
Or
Jess,
Daniel is life.
what's
Daniel
yours?
is life.
Just so good.
I can't even remember what I was going to say now because we've kind of covered all the points.
Holy Testicle Tuesday.
I think another good one, probably. It was a good race, and hopefully it's going to set us up for the rest of the season with some more racing.
What about yours, man?
Oh God, crashes, controversy. Daniel,
Yay!
not yay. Not gonna go with yay.
You had the
So-
opportunity to go for the 3 C's there.
I know. I didn't know the third one. Okay, give me one, quick. Jack, come on the spot. Give me a C.
Cars.
Cars. There were cars. What do you think to race? There were cars.
There were
cars.
Brilliant.
I'm glad
They
that
went
was
in
guys.
circles.
See you next week.
So looking ahead now to Baku being the next race, and obviously Jack, you're racing there. Bet you can't wait.
No, yeah, it's first time that I've raced in Baku, so kind of scared.
What do you
of
think it'll
the
be
old
like?
town section? Everyone I've spoken to says that it's a really, really strange circuit, and I don't know quite what they mean by that. But then when I've watched videos of old sessions, there's a lot of people going straight on in braking zones, and it looks like it's a really fine line between getting a really good lap and just completely stuffing it up, basically. So
I think Baku's like a borderline track of, if it was a track from the 80s, people would be like, oh, it's a bit extreme and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It has
like
that
the old
moment
town.
like the old town, they go on so much about runoff area, and then you've got a single file corner past where where an ancient castle is the barrier.
listed.
Yeah, exactly. And then I noticed, I'm sure after the race in, it was last year and the year before, people were on about the safety car restart. So it's just an absolute.
Just slipstream
It
fest,
did
isn't
look
Yeah.
like borderline dangerous, but that's kind of
Nah, it's
exciting. Do you know what I
fun.
mean? That's what makes it exciting, though. That you were watching, they're going like 200 miles an hour, and they were like 4 wide after the safety car because the straight is so long and so wide.
It's over
that
2
it's
kilometers.
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like China is known for having a long straight, and that's only 1 kilometer. So it's double the size of
It's ridiculous.
China's straight, like longest.
Is that
straight.
including the kinks at the start, though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I
yeah.
think probably, yeah.
It
I think it's
must be.
because
It's
technically,
still like
It's
1.5
flat out,
k.
it's like 2K flat
technically
out,
it's
yeah.
not a corner, right? You can go flat out through there.
In F2, it's in the race. It gets pretty hairy. There were a couple of moments last year where you saw people having moments, and
That's not a moment.
and you think,
having a moment.
yeah, because it's like the second one, the right-hander. You just think if you just clip that inside wall and you snap a track rod or something, and you lose all your steering, you're just ploughing into that outside wall at like 180 miles an hour. So I got that to
So
look
you've
forward.
got you've
Really
got
looking
enough
forward to
storm
my
go
first
into
ever
Baku.
session. Yeah, we've got 45 minutes to learn the track, and then you're straight into quali. So it's,
Is there anything you can do, because you haven't driven it before? Is there anything you can do to, like, have you done, like, I'm guessing you've done sim work,
Play the F1 game.
RCing, played the F1 game.
That's what he's doing for
Of
the next
course.
4 hours.
literally I've only ever I haven't done any sim stuff yet. I will do, but before now, up till now, I've only ever driven it on the F1 game. So
I mean, it's scary enough in the F1 game, that castle section.
yeah,
And
No,
we've seen it in real life as well, and
Yeah,
it's pretty narrow.
it's
yeah.
narrow.
Yep. yeah, and in racing as well, I think it's pretty tough because it's a really slippy track generally. If you look at the how smooth it is, so like I said, it's really fine margin to get your braking points right. So when you have to try and outbrake someone and overtake them, you're just stepping over into an area where you're not really, you've never been before, you never braked offline, dirty, dusty, high fuel. It's quite challenging.
An unknown.
Yeah, but it'll be cool because half the grid are rookies. So I'm not the only one.
It's going to be carnage.
F2 is always
Watch F2
amazing,
in
right?
Baku. It will be entertaining.
It's been really good every year from what I
Yeah,
remember. Quite a lot of carnage and crazy overtakes and stuff.
Well, that's why you watch
Big-
F2. In fact,
Well,
I've,
yeah,
in a lot of
exactly.
races that I've been to as a fan, I've enjoyed the F2 more than I've enjoyed the F1.
Yeah, the F2 races are so
I think
good.
the difference between F1 and F2 is, in a nutshell, if you watch the F2 race in Bahrain, you look through the highlights, and the highlights are just packed with stuff going on, mostly at the front, and then you're just seeing like the background of a shot, someone doing a massive lunge on another guy into turn one. Doesn't make the highlights real because
Yeah.
it's like it's only for 15th, and it's
Yeah.
could have been the most awesome move ever, but there's so much to choose from. And F1, it's a bit more. Obviously, the racing isn't quite because they're not spec cars where they are in F2.
There's a question actually from Tom Serson that we've had in for you, Jack. After the troubles in the sprint race in Bahrain,
Damn it! Was hoping that would have come up.
how confident are you feeling in the run-up to Baku? To perform, I suppose.
Yeah, for those who didn't watch the race, why?
Yeah, exactly.
But also good because me and my teammate both stalled in race 2 because had some difficulties, but feeling fairly confident. The one thing that was good in Bahrain was our pace was always good. The whole weekend we were quick, just traffic and not quite getting the strategy spot on. Starts weren't great. All those little things add up, and we didn't come away with as many points, but Baku can be good.
I guess that's like you're saying in a spec series like F2, the tiniest little mistake, like Mercedes, say like 2 years ago, or whatever, you could completely screw up your qualifying lap and you'd still be second. Whereas F2, because it's a spec series,
Yeah, no
little
chance.
things can cost you so much. And I guess that's why the order changes so rapidly across
Yeah.
the season and stuff.
It's a bit closer to F1 than something like F3 or Formula Renault, because the higher you move up, the more the teams specialise the cars, even though you're given a car at the start of the year, and then the teams basically try and get the best out of it. So there's more of that going on in F2 than the lower series. But
What does that mean, Jack, when you say that?
We stick an extra turbo on.
WTF1 exclusive.
No, it just means you've got a set of rules and regulations, same as F1, except that they're more centered around what you can and can't touch on the car. So, for example, things like the software of the engine mapping and all of that, completely out of our hands. We can't touch that. No party modes in F2. But you can adjust things like the cooling, how much cooling you want to have on the car. The setup of the car is pretty free, so downforce levels, stiffnesses, all of that fun stuff. And then just reliability, making sure that the car is pretty bulletproof, prepared as well as it can be, giving it a stroke before you go out just to make sure it's in the right mood.
Predictions. Baku.
I haven't even thought about that
Let's
yet.
do better than last time out where no one got the winner, because we all went for Hamilton.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe
Who
Hamilton
didn't even show up this weekend.
I can't believe
Mercedes,
Mercedes
yeah.
half a second slower than Ferrari in qualifying on their track that they always win at. Yeah.
And Baku, they haven't been particularly good at
Lewis
either,
never
Mercedes,
won
have
it.
they? So
only
I mean,
races,
it's only the
race.
third. It's only the third Baku race,
Yeah, but it's the only race he's never won
but on the current calendar.
on the calendar. Yeah. You go first because I'm thinking.
wow, Jack, you go first.
Passing the buck here, guys.
Well, considering that Ricciardo obviously won here before, I think it's not out of this world to suggest that Red Bull could be up there again. Because you talk about the Mercedes. I am delaying my prediction, by the way. I'm giving
I like
myself
it. I like
Yeah.
thinking time. Mercedes, it's all about the tyre troubles they're having at the moment. They can't get the temperatures right. So that's why in China, I think it was that they were too cold.
Well, he said,
I can't remember.
He said at the safety car restart, his fronts were
Not there.
stone cold.
Yeah. Well, either way, it is really difficult to get them in that window, and they clearly just, with this car, they haven't quite figured it out yet. So, and Baku's tough for that. So they might struggle again. So I'm going to say, is it top 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, top 3.
I'm going to say Ricciardo P1. Going for
Nice.
back-to-back wins, just to
Full on.
throw that out there. Ricciardo P1, Vettel P2, and Bottas P3.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm going to go with Vettel first, Verstappen second. I think he's going to come back stronger, purely because, although I feel in the back of my mind that it will take a lot longer.
He's either
Better
going to do
race.
something
To learn.
awesome or
Yeah, he'll either come back
Yeah.
and everyone will be like, okay, he just had a blip, or it'll be another showing of crashing and
I
whatever.
think it's more likely to be the blip, personally. I think there's a lot of headlines and fuss being made about the fact that he had such an awful race, but like I say, it's so close between being an overtaking god and doing what he did in China.
and the one track
it just
you
has to
don't
come.
want to be at next is Baku, probably.
True, very true. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the last year, and because Hamilton was leading that race.
Yeah, Hamilton
Yeah.
was.
Was that
he
from
checked
genuine
out, right?
pace? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
he checked out, I think.
Yeah,
It's just-
obviously then he had his problem with his thingamabob, headrest.
And a little shunt from
Vettel,
Vettel for good
yep.
measure.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't think we'll see that again this
No.
year. Maybe Verstappen will be the one to shunt this time.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because obviously he was there in pace, so maybe Mercedes sorted out their issues from 2016 where they were just nowhere.
Yeah.
Who was on pole 2017? Do you remember?
2017, Lewis was on pole.
Hamilton's on board
20,
2017.
do you mean 2016?
No, 2017. Okay, so because in my head I was like Mercedes don't have pace around Baku, but they did last year. It was
Yeah.
just the year
Mm.
before that they
It was
did.
just
Ros-
chaos.
Rosberg won
won,
2016.
I think, quite a dull.
It was.
Race.
Oh, it was just
from-
Hamilton
Yeah.
that was nowhere, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because he had some issues,
yeah,
didn't
the
he?
crash
Yeah.
or something.
So Lewis has never had
yeah.
good luck around Baku. So
When do we
far.
think Lewis is going to get some luck?
I don't know. I think because there's a very good point, and sometimes I hate to say this, but actually Rosberg pointed this out. That
was
Lewis is a very psychological based racer, and if his head's not right, he's not right. And
We had a fan question about that.
Yeah, we
did
did.
we? Okay, what did
Yeah,
they say?
I'm just gonna find it. You
You're
keep
gonna find
going.
I'll keep
Yeah.
talking. And this weekend was proof of it. If he doesn't feel confident in the car, he can't push the car. So qualifying, they were off, and his head just went down, and that was it. And start of the race, like you can hear him on the radio. He's not happy. He's complaining to his engineers about things not feeling right, not pushing right. And I think, being a world champion, I think we said this before. Half of winning is managing that, because sometimes your greatest adversary is yourself. Not to get deep, but if your head's not in the game and you lose it, then you're not going to pull off those amazing overtakes or push the car to the limits that people don't think you can. And I think that was what happened this weekend.
He's a very emotional guy as well.
Yeah.
Clearly
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
he wears his heart on his sleeve with everything,
But
doesn't he?
you sense that's where he gets a lot of his speed from as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think, you've seen in the Mercedes years, he's changed a lot as a person, and
Yeah.
I think he's a lot better for it.
Yeah.
And this weekend, even Toto Wolff was saying, wasn't he, like he wasn't really in the best place. But then you also have to think, to give him credit, there have been times, especially last year when the car was a bit of a diva, where he did pull out awesome results from it, and Bottas was nowhere with the same car.
yeah,
And I think people don't appreciate the amount of work that he puts in with the engineers on the setup and things
Yeah.
like that. They kind of see him because he parties on the weekends, on the weeks.
Yeah.
He sort of just turns up and does his thing and goes away again. But actually, by all accounts, he seems to be quite a hard worker. And this weekend, for whatever reason, he hasn't got it right, and he hasn't felt comfortable on it. It's dropped him out of that window where he feels like he can do something. So he's had an off weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised if he actually managed to turn that around quite quickly.
So how do you see it, Jack? Do you see it? Because obviously Bottas apparently has stepped up his game, or do you think it's Lewis has just dropped off from last year? How do you kind of measure it?
I think Hamilton definitely has struggled a little bit. Not in Melbourne, he was quick. He was much quicker than Bottas, but China, he's obviously struggled, and Bahrain wasn't as good. But Bottas, I think, has got a bit more consistency this year, because last year, in situations, if it had been China, we would have thought it would be Hamilton the one that would be dealing with it, and then Bottas would be the one struggling. But actually, he's managed to turn that around. And
Similar to last year,
bit
I
of
think.
both.
I think there was quite a stage at the start of last year where Bottas was actually doing quite well, like you say, in the diva stage. There were a couple of races where Hamilton sort of just didn't show up, and whether that's a mental game thing or just him not getting the car set up right.
Yeah, it's
is
just
an
one
odd
for discussion, isn't it? It's just we don't know.
It's one of those
we don't
weird
know
we
enough.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's strange for a world champion to. Hamilton's a strange one because, like, when Vettel's on his A game, he can be like so dominant. Like he won 9 races in a row or something for Red Bull.
Yeah.
Hamilton's, I don't think, has come close to that, and he has his moments where he can just be completely unstoppable, and if they turn the wick up, he could win a race by minutes or laps on everyone, and then another race where he just almost doesn't show up.
Yeah.
It's really odd.
Give me your
Right, I've
top
got my
three.
prediction
You've
now.
had enough
I'm
time
going
now.
for Vettel for the win, Raikkonen, because Ferrari will just be like, no, I don't care about you. You can just not do anything.
He's been doing really well this season. Just wanted
He
to say,
has.
carry on.
Yep.
We can go into something else then.
Yeah.
And Ricciardo in third.
Okay, and Jess?
Question. I think Vettel will win.
That was not a happy face.
Vettel, well, because I just don't want. I mean, the gap closed this
Yeah,
weekend,
you
which
don't
is
want him to
good, but I
extend
don't want him to run away with it this season.
I think Hamilton will come in the end season. Sorry, stop talking.
No,
Predictions.
it's okay.
Predictions.
It's okay. So I think Vettel will win it. I think maybe Ricciardo second and Hamilton third.
Interesting. Okay, so mine was Vettel, Verstappen, Hamilton. So pretty much the same sandwich
just
of
different,
cars there.
Just different Red Bull.
Triple
Got
sandwich.
Danny
for
Rick,
3 different
podium,
cars.
everyone, I think.
No,
What were you saying?
you didn't put.
Oh, you didn't put Danny Rick.
Ricciardo
Oh, you
on
said
podium.
Verstappen.
No, I think Danny Rick will. He'll get a bit too
You think
aggressive.
he's a one-trick pony?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I love you, Danny Rick. But
Please
I think
reply
it's
to my tweets.
Verstappen.
Please reply to my tweet.
One day.
Oh dear.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Right, that's
tweet
about
from
it
Daniel
for
Ricciardo.
us. That's our time allotted. We're expired. Jack,
Sorry.
a special thank you to you for coming along, and I wish you the
Anytime.
best of luck.
Well done.
I'm
We'll be
sure everyone
watching.
does.
Well, we'll be there, so we'll be watching.
You will be there, yeah.
From the sidelines.
from the
Give us a
sidelines.
wave.
You
You
can
better.
join
Go
us
by,
for
yeah.
the next one with 2 trophies in your hand.
Exactly, yeah. That's the only acceptable outcome here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you very much, guys, for watching,
Bye-bye.
and we'll see you next time after Baku.
Bye.
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 Bye.